Over the course of one weekend in November 2021, Beatles fans got questions answered that they'd been asking for decades when Get Back, a more complete view of one of the projects, or perhaps the project that broke up the Beatles, came out. And since then, Let It Be has been the sad step-sibling, the womp-womp of the Beatles, of the Get Back project, of all of it. It's always going to be the one that John Lennon reportedly cried to when he saw it in a theater. It's always going to be the one that Paul McCartney said he couldn't bear to watch. It's always going to be the one that Ringo in 2021 said that it was all doom and gloom, something like that. It was a little bit of a smudged fingerprint on a very, very glossy finish that was the Beatles' career. And now we're getting to see the Let It Be 1970 version all restored, nice and shiny and new. And we're going to get to find out, with the benefit of hindsight and remastering and Get Back, whether or not Let It Be lives up to its reputation. Or maybe is it just that it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth? Hi, I'm Lars and this is my land. In my land, I get to do pretty much whatever I want. And today we're gonna watch Let It Be restored. And you're gonna listen because it's my land. Or you're gonna watch with me because it's my land. What? Welcome to Annoying Memos Land. Beep, 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 beep. If you're new here, I do Beatles. I talk about the Beatles, but I have been known to drop a 7-hour video on a TV show that I worked on for so long that if I don't mention it in every video I do, I will be drugged to go into an arena and fight that guy, Elvis, which is admittedly better than fighting those things. Yikes, but still, you know I'm gonna lose. I mean, come on. I can't win against Elvis. I would absolutely love it if you would like and subscribe and all of that jazz. Those things help so much. And let's get back to my land. This is awkward. I can't react to this. Actually, we can't watch it. I tried. You know, I tried a lot, actually. In every single one of my videos, I have a little blurb talking about how I can only have, it's 3 to 5 seconds, but I've said 5 to 7 for my entire span of YouTube, right? Before YouTube's copyright system kicks in and not only demonetizes, but also blocks my video from being seen. I can't publish it. I say it every single video. It is a pain, to say the least, especially since I can get away with about 15 seconds of TV show footage. If you watched my Lost video, you know that there's a stark difference between what I'm allowed to show with Beatles and what I'm allowed to show with a TV show. And he's got the best one-liners surrounding it, I swear.
I thought you were a communications officer.
Part of my training entailed getting the enemy to communicate.
I think you've never actually tortured anybody in your life.
Unfortunately for us both, you're wrong.
You want to know who I am?
My name is Saeed Jarrah, and I am a torturer.
It's absolutely infuriating, especially when I care about the fucking music. I want to play it. I want to enjoy it. We like to jam together. You like to jam. So anyway, I put up my video, get a copyright strike claim. I get a copyright claim, not a copyright strike. A copyright strike is when someone claims your uploaded content and takes down the video. That does hurt the channel. A copyright claim does not hurt the channel. It just makes it so I can't publish my videos. Put up my video, get a copyright strike, fix it again, get a copyright strike, fix it again, get a copyright strike. This is how much of my video was claimed by copyright. I kept putting in gray screens, cutting in silence, because I can't react to the Let It Be video because it's on screen. So if it's playing throughout, it just can't. It will cause issues. And then of course, if it's Beatles music or any sort of claimed music, which is everything that the Beatles play, then I only get 3 to 5 seconds of that, unless if it's like, I don't know, happy birthday, not their happy birthday, but like the happy birthday. And because it's them playing, it would still be claimed. I worked pretty hard on this video and I had some shit going on as well. Past Lars can tell you about it. Yeah, so the maintenance people, they're probably gonna just start drilling. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Suffice it to say, little frustrated. I was just gonna scrap the video. I was like, I can't keep doing this because it was making the video completely illegible. Not even fun to watch. Not fun for me to put out. This isn't my work at this point. So I do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/larsland. You don't need to go there if you don't want to. I don't give a shit. Honestly, I just care if you like and subscribe and all that jazz. I say it every time. That's really it, okay? That's where my videos, as God intended, exist. And yes, they're behind a paywall because honestly, I work hard for them and I think it's worth it. So that's, I don't know, fucking sue me. So that's where the Let It Be video is. The first one. This is the second one. The worst one. Technically, it's the third. Just a sec. And I got several comments saying, we don't care, we like it, we don't care. I will always have to do the gray screens and the silences. I will always have to kowtow to these rules and I will continue to have to do those things. But at this point, this video was no longer legible. Like it wasn't interesting or making sense. I was commentating on things happening and pausing so you couldn't see the scene of what I was talking about. What's the goddamn point? It's not fun for you to watch. Why you're gonna spend 57 minutes watching some bullshit? I know you like me, but like, guys, come on. I like you too. So we're here now. I would say end rant, but I feel like the rant will continue. And honestly, I just liked the annoying memos so much that I just wanted to keep the whole intro. So the video that I filmed it's different than what we're getting now, but here's the deal. If you haven't noticed, this video is a reasonable length. Bizarre. It's been a while. Could that be because I'm working on a Get Back project that's like the whole thing? Like Nagra, Let It Be, weird books. Hang on. Let me see. Where is that thing? Just a sec. Okay. My shoes were squeaky. So I have the Get Back book, right? And that's, I think, kind of like, oh yeah, of course you do. I also have, this is out of print. It's called Drugs, Divorce, and a Slipping Image by Doug Solpe and Ray Schweihart. My cat took a liking to it, which is extra fun since it's signed. This is a point-by-point report of the Nagra tapes, essentially. Am I working on that? Yes, I started working on it a couple months ago. I haven't really touched it. It's gonna take over a year probably. I would say it's gonna be like Lost. Get Back in itself is, I believe, to be 7-8 hours, and Let It Be is obviously 80 minutes. The Nagra tapes, I believe, are 80 hours. There's a lot to go in there, not to mention other transcriptions, and this is the one case that I will be making an exception to go into another Beatles creator as a resource, which will be Though They May Be Parted. It's a blog by Dan Rivkin, who is a journalist. I am also a professional journalist, if you didn't know that. I know. I'm sorry.
You need to leave.
But it is true. That is my background. I'm a freelance journalist now, but I have worked for newspapers. I probably just lost subscribers. And it would be actually very ignorant of me to ignore him as a source. It would just be like a hindrance and make no sense. It's They May Be Parted on Twitter, or theymaybeparted.com. It is the most extensive Get Back, Nagra, everything resource, period. Okay, I will be using that as well. These are things that are coming in the future. This was meant to be just a small, fun video about this Let It Be restoration, kind of talking shit about the whole situation. It was just supposed to be fun. It still is, right? But now I'm just a little pissed. I'm just a little spicy. And I was already a little spicy. I was already a little goofy because I am in the midst of another video that I'm working on. And guys, I'm going insane. And I just needed a break. I've read too many books. I've read too many books. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna give you a quick Let It Get Back B synopsis. The whole project, just a quick synopsis. Then I'm going to tell you about the restoration. Then we're going to talk about what actually happened during that span of time. And then I'm going to talk about the documentary, give you a little review. It's going to be essentially a Get Back versus Let It Be video, which I've already done. Is it worth watching a second video from me about this? I don't know. That one was, I think, like about 2 years ago. It was in 2022. So I'll link it here. I don't rewatch my old videos, not those. That's the dark place, Simba. We don't go there, okay? But if you want to, good luck. Yeah, I can't rewatch those without wanting to take
a short drop and a sudden stop.
I think my takeaway is very similar, so I don't know. But, you know, it was going to be a different video. It was going to be a different video. Now, let me be clear. I am usually the facts person. This is the least Larslandian video I've put out in probably a year, maybe more. I don't have stats. I don't have numbers. I don't have anything. I'm just doing very loose talking. Because I do know more about this subject than other subjects, I'm fairly confident that I'm giving you straight facts, but understand that I'm very liable to screw up because this is a complex topic. I'll link the sources below. I think there's only a couple. It includes Wikipedia. It's like very lazy looking, okay? But like I said, the big one is coming and I'm working on something else. Just patience, Augustus. Save some for later.
Augusto, sweetheart, save some room for later.
Long and short of it, Let It Be was a documentary that came out about the Beatles just a month after their breakup was divorced, announced in 1970. It left the world feeling really uncomfortable about the Beatles, their perception of the Beatles, what was the world going to be like without the mop tops, and the realization that the world with the mop tops didn't seem too happy anyway. And rumors of fights, feuds, physical little punchy punches going on during the Let It Be / Get Back sessions made this documentary even more elusive and a little confusing. Then Get Back was released November 25th through 27th, yes, 2021, pre-Lars fandom. I wasn't there yet. It was a 3-part docuseries directed by Peter Jackson. He and his team at Wingnut Studios restored the footage and cleared up the sound using MAL technology. This allowed parts of the documentary that were never before seen or understood to finally be used. It changed quite a bit about the public perception of Let It Be, and just generally this time in the Beatles' lives. According to the PaulMcCartneyProject.com, and this was honestly the best and simplest definition I could find, MAL technology is a demixing technology developed by the award-winning sound team led by Emile De La Rey at Peter Jackson's Wingnut Film Productions Limited. It was first used in the Get Back docuseries directed by Peter Jackson and has since been used to remix the Revolver album in 2022, some tracks on the reissues of the Red and Blue albums, and the last Beatles song Now and Then in 2023. It was also used to create an isolated vocal track from John Lennon on the song I've Got a Feeling, which Paul McCartney used in his 2022-23 Got Back tour. MAL stands for Machine Assisted Learning, but the name is also a deliberate homage to the HAL computer in 2001: A Space Odyssey and to the omnipresent Mal Evans in the Get Back documentary. So it only made sense that Apple and Disney Plus announced that they would be releasing a restored version of Let It Be on April 16th this year to air on May 8th. This is technically the first time that the film has been available in years. You can find it pretty much anywhere online. It's on archive.org, Internet Archive, so just go there and type in Let It Be and you can find it. Let It Be is not the same as Get Back. They do not use any of the exact same footage. The storylines are similar and some of the scenes are the same, but nothing is duplicated. Michael Lindsay Hogg's version, Let It Be, who I will also call MLH at times, was actually much more sanitized due to the constraints of the public image of the Beatles at the time. According to Apple Corps' press release, with Lindsay Hogg's full support, Apple Corps asked Peter Jackson's Park Road post-production to dive into a meticulous restoration of the film from the 16mm negative, which included lovingly remastering the sound using the same MAL demix technology that was applied to the Get Back docuseries. That is my cat. Hang on. Yes? Michael Lindsay Hogg says Let It Be was ready to go in October-November 1969, but it didn't come out until April 1970. 1 month before its release, the Beatles officially broke up, and so the people went to see Let It Be with sadness in their hearts, thinking, I'll never see the Beatles together again, and I will never have that joy again. And it very much darkened the perception of the film. But in fact, how often do you get to see artists of this stature working together to make what they hear in their heads into songs? And then you get to the roof and you see their excitement, camaraderie, and sheer joy in playing together again as a group, and know, as we do now, that it was the final time, and we view it with a full understanding of who they were and still are, in a little poignancy. I was knocked out by what Peter was able to do with Get Back using all the footage I'd shot 50 years previously. According to a statement from Peter Jackson via a CNN article I found, he says, I'm absolutely thrilled that Michael's movie Let It Be has been restored and is finally being re-released after being unavailable for decades. I was so lucky to have access to Michael's outtakes for Get Back, and I've always always thought that Let It Be is needed to complete the Get Back story. Over 3 parts, we showed Michael and the Beatles filming a groundbreaking new documentary, and Let It Be is that documentary, the movie they released in 1970. I now think of it as all one epic story, finally completed after 5 decades. The 2 projects support and enhance each other. Let It Be is the climax of Get Back, while Get Back provides a vital missing context for Let It Be. Michael Lindsay Hogg was unfailingly helpful and gracious while I made Get Back, and it's only right that his original movie has the last word, looking and sounding far better than it did in 1970. The 2024 restored release opens up with an interview between Peter Jackson and Michael Lindsay Hogg. They talk about what the movie actually showed and what kind of fighting chance it even had back then. I'm gonna let past Lars walk you through sort of what happened during Get Back, because I already filmed it and it still works and copyright can't fuck with it. By the way, I do alternate between Get Back and Let It Be clips throughout this, sometimes to prove a point of what's in Get Back, whatever is in Let It Be, it's better quality from Get Back, and sometimes I'll be explaining scenes, so just bear with me, you know what I'm saying. This project was born out of a lot of manic pain, mayhem, if you will. Get Back could not have come at a worse time, but it was a project that was here to keep the band together. Brian had died, things were kind of falling apart. They were trying to figure out where to go with all of their business endeavors, lots of issues with Apple. The Beatles hadn't been seen performing live since Candlestick Park in August 1966. They were like, we're done performing, we're done touring, it's dangerous, we're over it. They decided to go into the studio and focus more on experimenting with the music and what they can do with their art. So they do that for a couple of years. And the Beatles, they film promotional films, music videos for their singles, and Michael Lindsay Hogg directed Rain and Paperback Writer. So they had him come and direct Hey Jude and Revolution, which they filmed at Twickenham Studios in September 1968. Those weren't live, they were broadcast, but there was an audience in front of them, and the Beatles were like, oh, hey, you know what? Maybe this audience thing isn't so awful. Maybe we should get rid of some of the tech for just a little bit. Let's get back to the basics. Let's make some rock music. Let's make an album of rockers. Let's do it. And that is the genesis of the Get Back /Nagra Let It Be project. What we see on Let It Be was essentially what was going to be a trailer, because it was originally supposed to be a live broadcast event, and the film crew was just there to get, ooh, the Beatles are in the studio, they're making an album. They're making an album just for tonight. Here's a 2-minute trailer. That's not what we got, because that is not what happened. So what they decided instead was to keep everything that they had and make a story out of it. And there we have the Let It Be documentary. It starts rough, by the way. The project, it comes out right after the Beatles break up. So people are looking at it, and there is some tension, and there is some weirdness, and there is some like, why are we suddenly here and there? And the fans look at it and they're like, no thanks. But in the middle of this, Yoko's getting divorced, Northern Songs and Dick James are in there doing shit, Linda's pregnant, all kinds of crazy stuff is going on, and it's stuff that we don't know in Let It Be. We have no idea. They're meeting Alan Klein, which is the Beatles to-be manager. We can't talk about it here, guys. We're trying to get this video out sometime this year. There's a lot going on. Not exactly the most conducive environment for the marriage is broken, let's have a baby at it solution. So they put themselves in Twickenham Studios, where they're familiar. They just filmed Hey Jude in there, and they decide, we're going to write and record an entire album here, and we will use our live performance to be the album, like All You Need Is Love, and then we'll have this media package style. We'll have photographers in, it'll be a photo book, it'll be multimedia, it'll be really cool, it'll be awesome. Hell yeah, I can hear Paul selling it now, and everybody's down, because why not? At this point, he's manic. Like, it starts really rough, okay? John is really high. Paul is stressing out about the music. He wants it so bad. He comes off overbearing. I don't have time to give you my Paul's Get Back defense, but I will yell. But he's stressed out. He's freaking out. Ringo's like, and George is obviously not taking it anymore. He's like, actually, I do have talent. Thank you very much. I don't need you. I will hang out with my talented friends, Bob Dylan and Eric Clapton. See you later. So he doesn't need John Lennon to tell him he's great, when everybody else is like, yeah, well, have you seen George Harrison? I mean, shit, it's George Harrison. The dynamics of the group are completely up in the air, and there's no Brian there. We want to do weird metaphors here in this land. Brian Epstein is the rubber band that holds the pencils together. They're not going anywhere, but they need him. It's kind of hard just to hold a handful of pins. It's a weird metaphor, but it fits. There's always somebody needs a rubber band, and you will tie together your broken rubber band and wear it on your wrist for weeks and weeks and weeks because it holds your hair off your neck. And that's what they were doing with Brian. Did I just get really real 8 minutes into the recording? I sure did. So what I'm saying is it was not a great time. I'm just throwing shit. We're just letting it go. We're throwing, we're enjoying, we're doing whatever. We're not having a mental breakdown. So they get there, it's not going well. And eventually after a couple of days, George says, you know what? I'm good. He says, y'all keep your broken band and your messy girlfriends and stop. That's a joke. And I'll see you around the clubs. Okay? Night. See you later. And the Beatles are like, oh, he's coming back. He's fine. He's coming back, right? So they have a meeting with the wives, Yoko and Linda, and, you know, Mo. And I don't know if Mo or Patty were there. I don't think that they would intrude. So they have a meeting. It does not go well. George says, you know what? Once again, see you around the clubs. Fuck off. And he deserved to say that. John and Paul needed to hear that a little bit more in their lives, okay? And this is coming from someone who loves them very much. So he says, see you around the clubs. Fuck off. They go back to the studio. They keep working. They float a few names. If we're committed to this performance, if we need someone to play, we could have Eric Clapton. They didn't say Klaus Vormann, but I'm sure that maybe he would have been mentioned. Someone else. What are we going to do? Are we going to keep playing? Are we going to cancel the gig? Is the show off? That kind of stuff.
Maybe for the show. I mean, you just say George was sick.
Oh, I mean, if he leaves, he leaves.
But what's the consensus? Do you want to go on with the show and the work?
Yeah, if he doesn't come back by Tuesday, we get Clapton.
So some of the talk that comes out and Get Back comes off so cold, but you have to remember, this is a business. They can't just sit there and say, nah, you know, it's fine. We're just gonna, you know, blah, blah, blah. They're the Beatles. All of those people around them that we don't see in Let It Be, that we do see in Get Back, their paychecks depend on whether or not the Beatles do their things. So they have to. They can't just be good friends. They're gonna have to be business people as well. And they weren't good friends or good business people. That's neither here nor there. But what they did was they took a couple of days and they wound up having a meeting, just the four of them. And this meeting was constructive. And they say, we're going to scrap the TV special. And what we're going to do instead is have a documentary from all the filming that we've already done. We'll have a live performance, but it's not going to be broadcast live. We'll do a show and it will be filmed and they'll put it out elsewhere. And instead of doing Twickenham, Bad Vibes, we're going to Apple Studios. Jump cut in the middle, they moved to Apple Studios, which is not explained in Let It Be, and it is incredibly jarring. This is so confusing to me, and I didn't stop. I didn't properly react. What happened? Where are we? What are we doing? What's going on? What happened? What's up? What's going on? Everything is explained meticulously in Get Back. And I know that this is like a back and forth, but I'm trying to explain where we're coming from here. You know what I'm saying? By the way, Michael Lindsay Hogg was not allowed to show that. There's only so much creative control that he had, especially in this world when there's Apple. I don't know the background of the editing. I don't know any of the stuff. Like I said before, this is a project that is upcoming. I don't know who was making the calls, what the cuts were, but I know he wasn't allowed to edit that in. Or at least I'm pretty sure he wasn't. Don't have it, not gonna look it up. We're not doing this. We're getting this video out today. They get George back, they come to the Apple Studios, and the vibe is definitely different. But one thing that they are realizing as they're working without the extra tech, the tape loops and the sound effects, is that they kind of want another instrument. They only have 4 people though, and they kind of need a 5th. Well, one of their friends, Billy Preston, who is a keyboard organist, he met them in Hamburg. He was actually, I did it right. This isn't Hamburg. There's a couple words out there I will never be able to pronounce properly because of reasons. Hamburg. That's what 5 years of German get you. You can't do it correctly anymore. Okay, anyway, he met them there and he came and visited them in London and actually started playing with them, and they brought him on and he actually joined their record and everything, and he did a great job. Billy brought a huge lift to the studio, and the difference in energy and comfort and joy is palpable. It is. I would say that Billy Preston is incredibly important to the entire project. Still fighting over where this live show is going to be, and Michael Lindsay Hogg is going to keep telling us over and over again about his 2,000 Arabs and torches around. I did a little edit in my first video. I'm going to put it right in here about what I said about Lindsay Hogg because I'm not going to redo it. That was too good. One of the things I know about Get Back is that we saw the staff a lot, and we don't see almost any of that in Let It Be. That's my memory, is that we don't see Michael Lindsay Hogg saying vaguely or racist, like fully racist things. He says a few disturbing things. I don't know if I can play them back to back because of the aforementioned copyright thing. He says the Arabs and the torch lit several times.
Think of the lights in the water. Torch lit. 2,000 Arabs.
He talks about Hasidic Jews, the ringlets. He talks about a few things, guys.
What about a hospital? But I don't mean for really sick kids. I mean for kids with broken legs.
He talks about a few things. And those are the ones that are coming off the top of my head. But I'm like, man, I know that there are some more words like...
What about an orphanage? How does that grab you guys?
Midnight with 2,000 people in an amphitheater, various people in that neck of the world. To see this concert.
All various people in that neck of the world. He says and does. He says things. He sure says words. But I love how much work he did. I have so much. I owe him so much, you know. But I'm just like, wow. Okay, you said those things. They came out of your mouth. So they decide that they're going to have this concert on Apple Studios' roof. Which is not safe, by the way. The weight is like buckling. It's not great. And it's awesome. It is so iconic. It is January. It is freezing. They are so cold. Obviously, it is a public safety hazard. People were getting up on their roofs to go see the show. And the Beatles go out the way that they came in, thrilling the world and pissing off the authorities. That is the way that the Beatles do things. Let It Be is the product of the reality of the Beatles and the world's perception and need of them in 1969. We look at Get Back and we know more of what was real and what was going on than we did before, because one of the things when I mentioned in my intro was that questions were asked. I didn't explain that, and I should have, and I'm sorry. News was coming out that George and John got in a fist fight.
But it wasn't the first time they've traded a few punches.
People were like, oh my God, they're falling apart. They're breaking up right now. Everything is awful. So it's out in the news that they're fighting physically. And so this documentary comes out and we're seeing this and it's kind of like, what's going on? What happened? What happened there that made them have a fist fight? And now we see that there was no fist fight. It did not happen.
It's really extraordinary, the last week's press.
Yeah, because there's nothing to it except that it's a lie.
So a lot of the other stuff that maybe people were saying, you know, oh, this girlfriend's doing this and this girlfriend's doing that. Like, shut the fuck up. Keep, you know, if we're gonna talk about the queens, let's talk about the ones in the room. Okay? We don't need any of the ladies to bring drama with those four. Now, Ringo is not dramatic. Ringo is drunk. Anyway, they have their rooftop performance. It's iconic. It is the last Beatles live performance. And thank God that they were there to record everything because, I mean, it is so historical and I'm so glad that we have so much footage of it. And the Beatles go down to the studio. They wrap up a few songs. They have one more day of recording when they do the acoustic and the slow songs. That's it. That's the end of this project.
I want to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves. I hope we pass the audition.
And the Beatles certainly did pass the audition, but by the time the movie was out, they were broken up. It must have been quite a jarring experience to be a fan in that day and age and see that coming out. My cat's behind me trying to jump somewhere he can't really actually jump. Jack, come on, dude. I'm going to insert what I can of the interview with Peter Jackson and some of the things I said about Michael Lindsay Hogg here.
And I'm not a kind of self-pitying person at all. It really didn't get a fair shake. I think one of the things which excites me about Let It Be coming out again is that finally it's going to get a chance to be embraced for the curious and fascinating character that it is.
I do agree with that. I don't think that he's a self-pitying character at all. I think he comes off like something in Get Back. He really does come off like something. I think he's creatively very ambitious. I appreciate the lengths he went to get lots of things that the Beatles didn't want him getting, certain conversations, etc. The ethics, like, you know, at some points, but I'm still here watching it, so it's kind of like, all right, kettle. But I liked the way that he reacted with Get Back. He said that Let It Be had its day in the sun. He wasn't mad about Peter Jackson. He wasn't jealous about it. And I liked that. And I was kind of surprised by that because of the character we saw in the documentary. But everything that I'd seen from interviews with him and stuff, he seemed pretty gracious and, you know, normal, if that makes sense. Showtime. Considering what we see of Michael Lindsay Hogg's character in the documentary, I was actually always really impressed with his response to Get Back, because it's easy to criticize him because of a lot of things that he says. It's kind of weird. So when he actually had a lot of humility about this, it was really impressive to me, and I appreciated that. So here's what we see in Let It Be. It opens up with Mal moving the drum head and roadie Kevin Harrington assisting him, which is actually very similar to Get Back. We see the same kind of thing. I've said throughout this video, or a couple times, and I will because I was misinformed or whatever, that they don't reuse footage. They use different angles and everything. I would like to dispute that. Here is the intro to Let It Be. And here's the intro to Get Back. Please. It shortly transitions to Paul sort of somberly playing the piano with Ringo sitting there. And then the camera zooms in on George and Ringo and they smile like they're posing for a photo. It's actually really sweet. It cuts to John playing Don't Let Me Down. Then Paul showing them how to play Maxwell. It quickly transitions to the clang clang with Mal. Then there's the famous electric shock scene where George is playing with his mic and he gets shocked by it. And he's like, ah, fuck, I just got a bolt, man. They're kind of joking around about it. He tries it again, gets shocked a second time. And in Get Back, we see someone else fiddling with it and getting shocked as well. Then Paul says, if this boy dies, you're gonna cop it. Then we see two of us playing, Paul and John together at the mic. I really love this bit. And also there is some great evidence against the Paul is dead theory. This is the nose crinkle. Pass Lars, take it away. By the way, this is one of the best arguments against Paul is dead. The nose wrinkle. Best indicator that that man has never been anyone but himself, because plastic surgery can't create that. Then they play I've Got a Feeling. And Paul takes the time to show John what he wants the solo to sound like. He's using his hands and his face to say, it should never sound like this, it needs to sound like this. And as he's going, John is telepathically going with him and he nails it. Then they play Oh Darling. Then we have Ringo coming in and Paul saying, good morning, Rich. And that's also in Get Back. And then they play the piano, but this is a different version than we heard in the Get Back version. We also see Ringo soft soul tapping. Then we see the fight. Everyone knows the fight. It's actually very renowned. What's the word? Like infamous in the Beatles community. I'm trying to help you, but I always hear myself annoying you. Paul is playing and he's saying, maybe we should slow down. I don't like this bit. George is saying, you keep working out your thing. I'll keep working out my thing. Relax. And Paul's kind of trying to explain something at George with what they're playing. And they kind of get into semantics. Maybe we should simplify the song and add the more complicated bits in a little bit. It's not complicated. No, you say this as I'm trying to get you. I'm not trying to get you. These are snippets of this argument that we do see in Get Back. We see a little bit more of it where it cuts away and Paul gets up, he puts his bass down and he says, I'm tired of being the boss. I don't want to be the boss. Okay? And I can't do it on camera. I'm sick of it. And John says, forget about candid camera. Paul says, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm right. And you know I'm right. And John says, well, yes, but I don't know what you want me to do about it. Paul sits down and he says, well, listen, it's just like with Hey Jude. You know, I am saying, I don't want this, blah, blah, blah. And George just says, all right, well, I don't mind. I'll play, you know, whatever you want me to play. Or I won't play at all if you don't want me to play. Whatever it is that will please you, I'll do it. But I don't think you know what that one is. I don't think you know what that one is, not in Let It Be. But can you imagine the theaters in 1970? when that shit dropped, there were rumors that John and George had gotten in fist fights during this time. And then this happens? Damn, George was going through it in January 1969, Miss Thing. Holy shit. Can you imagine what you're thinking about the Beatles? I don't even know what I'm thinking about the Beatles at this time. I'm probably thinking that Paul is a prick. I mean, my God. Now, I have a huge defense of Paul during this time. It doesn't change the way that he treated George at all. So we're not going to be dismissing any behavior here. And I don't have time to defend his behavior with the nuance it deserves. So we're not going to do that here either. You're going to have to wait for the big long video because that's the way that things work. This is one of the very few times that we see discussion. We see discussion when they're playing out Maxwell a little bit and then they're doing this and let's see, right before I Me Mine, the India trip conversation, when Paul talks at John, that's pretty much it, like conversation wise. The Octopus's Garden. So then after this fight, they're playing across the universe, different day, nothing else. There's no exhibition, so there's a lot more just music, whereas Get Back obviously has a lot more time and explanations, text on screen, dialogue directs where we're going next. But we don't really know what's going on. We don't know that there's a TV special at the end of this. We don't know that there's a live performance at this point. We don't even know that they're recording an album. We don't know what the hell they're doing there. They could just be hanging out in an airplane hangar with a lot of fill lights. Who fucking knows? Nobody knows. Then we see the Beatles play Across the Universe. Then there's Susie Parker and the scene. Then there's the I Me Mine scene, which starts again with George saying, if you don't want this song, fine, don't care, I'll put it in me musical. Now, what is missing here is, for me personally, which I think is probably maybe a little off, the most upsetting scene in Get Back. And it's when George comes and plays one of my favorite George songs, which is I Me Mine. He brings it, he talks about the inspiration behind it, a waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, a beautiful fucking song. And John comes in and says,
Run along, son, we'll see you later. Rock and roll band, you know. Boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom,
bum, ba boom, bum, ba boom. Do you know what kind of music we play? You can keep that. We play rock and roll songs. Sounds like a rock and roll song. Are you an asshole? Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? Fucking what? Why are you being so mean? I didn't know anything about the Beatles when I first watched Get Back, really. I was 1.5 days into my Beatle fandom when I got into it, okay? It was like an issue. It started fast and strong and it's kind of stayed here since. So I was like, is he fucking with him? Because I knew a little bit about the Beatles, like their sense of humor was weird. And I was like, is this just something I don't get? Because some of the other stuff, I didn't know them well enough. Do I not get it because I don't know them? And the answer was yes at the time. But this just seems so mean and so unlike him during the rest of this time, because at the beginning and during the Twickenham Studios time, John is just high off his gourd completely. He and Yoko are completely aged out. By the way, in the big video, the Two Junkies interview is part of it, and I have transcribed and put subtitles to that goddamn interview. Okay, I have prepared everything for that big video, okay? So please, once again, bear with me not having the real sources this time. I'll be back on my bullshit next time. And we don't see John making fun of George this time, but we do see just Ringo, Paul, and George playing it while John and Yoko dance. I personally do love that scene. It's so fun to watch, but it says something else. And that's where my sentence will end. Controversial yet brave. And suddenly we're
at Apple Studios. How did we get here? Nobody knows why we're suddenly at Apple Studios, bitch.
Nobody knows. So they're suddenly there. We see the apple scruffs. It's very beautiful, nice white building outside. And we go into For You Blues. It's actually very fun. I very much enjoy this song. And John has a very nasty solo on the slide guitar. Some people would say it's downright dirty, raunchy, or wrong. And I would say it's perfect. Then there's the India trip conversation, just a little bit of it. Just, oh, we weren't ourselves. It was kind of funny what we were doing. What were we doing? Yes, what were we doing? That kind of stuff. So they have that conversation. Then the boys play Besame Mucho, which does not sound like Paul at all, but it's actually a fun listen. George and Ringo work on Octopus's Garden, and when I watched it, I got a little emotional because I love that song so much. I really do. And hearing his voice singing, it just revived my cold, dead, lifeless, unhappy heart. Then Heather comes into the studio, and she's so cute, and we don't know who the hell she is. She comes in with Paul, so you're like, that's Paul's kid? You don't know. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know. And we don't see Linda at all. We do see Yoko a couple of times, but nothing noteworthy really. But we don't see Linda at all. But we do see Heather. She interacts with everybody. She's adorable. Then we see the boys playing You Really Got a Hold on Me, and it's got another long focus on George. The For You Blues had a lot of focus on him, which was fine because we've had John and Paul songs almost exclusively up until now. Then we also have You've Really Got a Hold on Me, which is one of my favorite songs by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, and I jammed out to it in this video, and YouTube said fuck you. And I had fun with my editing too. It was so, I was like bum 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 tighter. I was like going off. I don't get to have any fun. I don't get to have any fun. Now we're having fun because I'm talking shit. During this song, John, he's notorious for fucking up lyrics. So he screws up the lyrics and George shades him. And I think it is so funny. Yeah. Yeah, let's go back. Sorry. He's like, And the camera pulls out and suddenly Billy Preston is there? Who's this guy? No introduction. What's he doing here? Why is he in all the songs after this? Billy Preston is a huge part of Get Back. He's a big part of the project and he's important on the actual album Let It Be. No introduction. The only time he's actually mentioned is in the credits. Okay. We now hear the Long and Winding Road cha-cha version. Cha-cha-cha. Then there's Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and another long George close-up while they keep playing some cover songs. Then they play Dig It, and Heather's dancing with Mal, and George Martin is playing a tambourine or some sort of handheld percussive instrument. Then we see Ringo falling from his drums.
That was Can You Dig It by Georgie Wood.
Paul talks at John about George not wanting to do TV, and he's saying, well, he doesn't really not want to do TV. He doesn't mean the words he's saying. What he says is he doesn't want to do help. I don't think that's what George said, but I think that's what Paul thinks. And meanwhile, John is looking at him like he just wants to die and or fall asleep. He's like, I get it. You're not ready to let this go. I'm high. I don't know about that part actually, probably. Then suddenly shoehorned in are the performances of Two of Us, Let It Be, and Long and Winding Road. These were actually recorded the last day after the rooftop performance, and I got emotional during the Let It Be one, which was fun and cute and couldn't show any of it. Once again, not bitter. I just like making fun of myself when I cry because it happens so often. You might as well take advantage of it. My God, what's the point? If you can't make fun of yourself, why be a flawed human being? Then there's the rooftop performance. I'm not going to go into the whole set list or anything really, but we get to see the rooftop performance. We see lots of cops, the bystanders in the street, people complaining, people praising. This little guy who is so funny and so awesome. I love him. This chick who I agreed with.
I just can't see that it makes sense.
Yeah, no, same. It's a joke. And there were the cops where this was the part that ended me just not putting up the video. This is the part that I was like, I have to have this up. So I'm gonna just do my best. I'm gonna have to censor it a lot. But I went on a little bit of a rant about those dorky ass cops. So here we go. Yeah, here comes the cops. Here comes the fuzz. Somebody called the police, the nerd alerts. Yeah, these fucking big dorks. They were credited in Get Back. I don't know if their names are credited in this one, but I think that is so funny. And they're so mad. It's just so funny to me. Like, not to repeat a joke that I made in my rooftop performance video for Patreon, but like, Do you think that they grew up like knowing that they would be like fucking nerds? Like, you want to be the guys that tell people to stop listening to the Beatles? You've got to be fucking kidding me, right? Move over, honey. I'm traveling on that line. And John says, thank you very much. I hoped we passed the audition, and they certainly did, as they always do. And that's it. So what do we think? Was Let It Be the depressing thing it was? No, it was just kind of confusing and a little what's going on. I understand the urge to want to make it as much music as possible. Like, that makes total sense to me. It's just that it just doesn't quite do it. I think it's important though, because it's indicative of what the perception of the Beatles was at the time, what documentaries in 1970 looked like, etc., etc., what Michael Lindsay Hogg was allowed to show, which includes being unable to show George leaving the band, which I didn't really talk about the story here because it doesn't matter, because it wasn't, I mean, I guess I mentioned it in the earlier thing, so whatever. It's still important to watch, you know? I see the urge to compare, and I obviously did compare the two, so I understand why it can be disappointing, or why you were hoping to get something else or something a little bit more dynamic than maybe we got. But editing was different then, staff was different then, there was a lot that Michael Lindsay Hogg wasn't allowed to include, and I do think that he would have included more juicy bits if he were allowed. He does seem like a pot stirrer. It's still a Beatles thing, it's still fun to watch, it's still enjoyable, and I always love the rooftop performance. I really enjoyed myself watching that, and you know, I will never complain. That's basically the whole Let It Be video. I'm sorry. All right, you guys, tell me what you thought. What did you want? Do you think that this was necessary? I do. Tell me anything else. I don't know. Say nice things to me, because it has been a crazy week. Okay, I love y'all, and please, 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 I would absolutely love it if y'all would like and subscribe and all of that jazz. It is so helpful, please. And I love y'all so much. And y'all come back now, you hear? Bye.
My sweet Lord. My Lord. Lord. But it takes so long, my Lord. My sweet Lord.